Sure, Sam Blakeslee, Blakeslee. Probably in this context, sort of co-chair of the Citizens Homeless Commission.
Okay.
I think that's most relevant.
Okay. I'm gonna move.
You know, I grew up in this community. I've been here since 1965, and I've just seen it change so dramatically over the years, but nothing has been like the change we've seen with homelessness over the last decade and the last 5 years in particular. And it finally kind of got to a breaking point. It's like, how long can I be silent? At some point, we need to engage the citizenry because this problem is out of control.
So what do you think, I mean, I know you have it in your proposal, but tell me, what do you think it takes to be any different than any other community in California?
You know, what's missing over and over in city after city, state, across the country is accountability. There are great people working on this problem, but we need accountability. We need metrics. We need outcomes that people have to attain to continue to have funding and to work together knowing that they've got to perform. They've got to get people off the street. They have to help people heal. They have to build housing. It's not just a matter of spending money to do these things. The metrics have to be achieved of solving the problem. And that's what we won't delay on anymore. We want to see outcomes, not money spent, not good intentions. We want the problem solved.
And do you think, since you've waged this sort of momentum, do you feel like the ball is at least being pushed up the hill?
I will say I've been really impressed with the county's response to some of the input they've been receiving on the need for accountability. I really, frankly, did not know whether or not we'd have a receptive audience to more accountability and metrics and outcomes and governance structures that made people perform, but I've been actually thrilled with the county and their really basic agreement that we need to work together to hold the system accountable. And I have a lot of, actually, I don't want to say optimism, but I'm feeling like this is a new season and new things are possible. And I want to see that come about.
That was my next question is, do you have hope that it could happen? But why do you not want to say optimism?
I don't say optimism because of the scale and difficulty of this problem. You know, this is one of the most difficult challenges of our generation. Yes, we understand there's great income inequality and a wealth differential and people struggle at the margins, but we also have housing prices that are going out of control and we don't have systems to help the mentally ill and those with significant substance abuse. You put all that together and you begin to appreciate this is a vastly more complex problem than anything we as a community have ever tackled before. So I don't say optimism because I don't think it's easy. I think this is going to be one of the hardest problems we work on over the coming decade, and it will take incredible focus if we're going to get there and meet those goals.
Do you have hope?
I do have hope because I think that the response I'm seeing from elected officials in cities and in counties and NGOs and nonprofits and communities of faith, I think there's almost a universality, an agreement that the status quo is not acceptable. We need to take our game to a higher level.
You mentioned all those entities. What about just me as a citizen, Joe Blow? Like, it's even our problem too, right?
Yep. You know, in beginning the effort in launching a citizens commission on homelessness, what blew me away is how many people just came out of the blue, members of the community who would call me and email me and write me handwritten notes and say, Sam, what can I do to be a part of the solution? How can I help? How do I get involved? Virtually everybody who walks by a homeless person and sees them in a park or sees a tent on a sidewalk or sees someone pushing carts and trying to go from one place to another place, almost everyone I know feels both compassion and frustration because they care about what they see, but they feel incapable of making a difference, that impotence, like how can I make a difference? And I think the reason we do have reason for hope is that we're developing structures that allow the average citizen to become involved. And I think there's a lot of power in the citizenry to become a part of the solution.
You mentioned everyone has a little empathy and frustration. What about, I mean, there are also people that I have personally talked to who say, get a job, they're ruining my business, I'm out there working and they're shitting on my patio, like.
There's no doubt that some of that frustration is expressed in anger, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a reason to be angry when you love a community, when you have a business in the community, you're raising a family in the community, and you're seeing it change and degrade and fall apart right before your eyes. Now, the question is, where should that anger be directed? Do you direct it at the homeless person? Do you direct it at the system? Do you direct it at law enforcement? Do you direct it at funding entities? And that is probably a personal decision that I can't opine on. But my goal is to make sure that the money that we do allocate for solving this problem is spent wisely, intelligently, and accountably. And we get the results as taxpayers and as citizens and community members that we seek when we make those expenditures. And we're spending a lot of money to solve this problem. My hope is that we can deal with some of the anger and frustration by producing results that people can point to and go, okay, we are making progress. We are making progress, and that's what's count. We can't solve the whole problem in one at bat. We're behind 10-0 in this game, and we're like in the 8th inning. We've got to go. We got to put wood on that ball every time at bat. We have to solve this problem like we're in the last couple of innings. We don't have time to fool around. We've got to solve it right now. That means we've got to engage the citizenry and make people accountable.
Okay, so continue with your baseball metaphors and deepening our bench. I mean, one thing that I've seen since being involved with the county is the other side of it. And I hear people bitch and moan and I'm like, okay, but are you a sideliner? Because have you ever shown up to a supervisor's meeting? Have you ever written an email to a supervisor? Have you ever ran for office? Like, I'm tired of sideliners complaining. So we want to recruit some of these sideliners, right?
Margaret Mead said, all it takes is a small group of dedicated people who are willing to totally invest in creating a solution. It's what will change the world, and it's the only thing that will change the world. Forgive me, I paraphrased it inaccurately, but the concept is we just need leadership and people to step up. Not everybody, not all the time. Not everyone can make that investment, or they feel like they made their investment, by paying their taxes. But the people who are in a position to make a difference need to own their responsibility for making it happen. It's on their shoulders. And that's why we look to government to solve problems. That's why some people are like 50% of their income is going to pay taxes. They want the problem solved, and they don't want to be told that they are the problem. They want, when they write those checks to pay their taxes, they expect solutions. And I'm not in government anymore, but I'm very sensitive to that responsibility. It's a sacred responsibility to take care of the people who put you in office and be accountable as a public official. And although I'm not a public official, there are people right here in this building who are, and I'm seeing that they're hearing the voice of the people, which gives me a hope that we're going to see some real progress.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about the little 30% thing that you talked about. You kind of just started it, but we don't need 100% investment, right?
Right. Yeah, we don't need every person to suit up and solve this problem, but we do need an army of engaged, caring people who are going to show up to city council meetings, who are going to show up to board of supervisor meetings, who maybe they're part of a faith-based organization and they talk to their pastor or the minister and say, yeah, we should do something on this front. We can provide some meals or have some volunteers down at the shelter. We don't need everybody to be involved, but we need those who have a passion for this, to see this as really the challenge of our generation. We will be judged by how we treat the least among us. We always are. And when we walk by people who are living in such desperate circumstances and we don't do our part, that's something we carry with us. And for me, if we're going to look in the mirror and feel like we did our best, we've got to engage and solve this problem, and we need to do it now.
Soundbite after soundbite. Tell me about the 30% with slavery, and that's what I was looking for. History has shown that a fraction of the people can make a massive change.
What we see historically is that problems, and you can think of any number of problems through history that have produced tremendous social change, are typically not fully understood by the public in the beginning. A small group of people raise the issue, and then they start publishing opinion pieces, and then they start standing up organizations, and they start showing up and advocating in front of public bodies, and there's a groundswell that happens as knowledge, understanding, and insight begins to develop that this is an issue. We saw it obviously with slavery, we saw it with women's suffrage, we've seen it with virtually every social issue our nation has dealt with. It starts small, and ultimately it becomes this tidal wave of opinion that changes the world. We need to have that same approach toward homelessness, that this is the challenge of our generation. We can do this, but we need to be willing to engage.
All right, one more question. And it just escaped me. Oh, do you think that we have the potential to be the example county? Because literally, like, if you drive south, you drive to Sacramento. I mean, I drove to Sacramento the other day and went, oh my gosh, what's happened? Like, if they can't figure it out, what makes you think we can?
You know, San Luis Obispo is a very special place. We have solved problems before. We have been out in front of the nation. Think about the first in the nation on dealing with smoking inside. I mean, I was in Europe on a little vacation, and over there, they're still trying to come up to speed with where we were decades ago. We have the potential for leadership for a few reasons. One is we're a little bit of an island. You know, to the north, there's quite a bit of distance between the next major population. If you include Santa Maria and you look to the south down to Santa Barbara, it's a long distance. If you look out to the east, we're kind of an island, but we're also a highly educated professional community. We have the second highest percentage of public employees in the state because of Cal Poly and Cuesta, Atascadero State Hospital. We have a number of organizations that are here that have brought a highly educated and sophisticated workforce that expect better in their community. And many people who came here wasn't for financial remuneration, it's because of the quality of life. And we have that benefit of a population that can dream big and reach for things that others can't imagine trying to attempt to complete. And so my sense is we can be a leader. We have great leadership in the county. We have great leadership in the cities. We have this conviction that now is the time. And again, I'm going to go back to what I think is most important, is we're now ready to demand accountability. We're not just spending money. We want to see results.
Perfect. Anything you want to add that I'm not hitting on? Bonnie?
I'm kind of out of practice.
You didn't. That's years of sound bites right there.